Hello world, this is Animation Pineapple here. Man, it's been a while since my last video about predictions for Inanimate Insanity episode 13. Now, on the eve of episode 14, it's time to make our predictions once again. And yes, I just found out that the episode is already available for Kickstart backers of Inanimate Insanity, but I promise you, I have not seen it, I am not a Kickstart backer, and I'll just make my predictions honestly and blindly. What I've learned is I need to start making these videos way before the episode comes out. Anyways, let's get into it. Okay, the teaser trailer starts off with Taco dragging MePhone across the ground of the cave we saw in the last episode. However, MePhone briefly jokes about and asks Taco if she'll
drop me too or whatever.
Which is an obvious reference to what Knife warned MePhone in the last episode about Taco ditching her. This says that Taco and MePhone do have a close bond, but Taco still has motives of doing other things, such as gathering intel from other contestants and the hosts, which I think are two ideologies in her friendship and her strategy that she'll need to balance in the future. We then get to listen in on the conversation between MePhone and MePat talking about Steve Cobs. MePhone seems angry and upset at what Steve Cobs has done, and reveals that everything that he has done, which he believed to be to his will, was actually under the influence of Steve, in his opinion.
And not a single thing I've done has been out of his control. Not one!
This is up for more theory in the future, and stay tuned for more theory on what I think the future of Inanimate Insanity will be as a whole. But between this, we get some interference from some sort of audio or telekinetic sound that interferes with MePhone and tells him to generate a living room set. Based on where MePad shows where the sound is coming from, the contestant quarters, and a later shot in the Inanimate Insanity preview, it is pretty clear that the sound is being generated from inside Fan/Test Tube's egg. And since the episode is called Hatching the Plan, we can assume that the egg hatches in this episode. But the real question is, what is inside the egg? We're not actually shown it in the preview. Or are we? First off, we can assume that whatever in there is electronic, as it interferes with MePhone. And I'm wondering if the iPhone shown at the very end of the clip is what's inside. A sort of mini iPhone is set to disrupt what MePhone is planning. Perhaps this iPhone will grow into a larger iPhone, and looking at the model, it appears to be closest to a MePhone 4 than any other generation of Apple product, or Meeple product in this case. Another clip that stumped me at first was when MePhone holds up his screen protector and says,
I made up my mind if you'll join me.
From this, I can predict that MePhone is trying to put the shield back on himself, possibly to travel to MeCloud and stop Cobs directly. Now, I don't know why he needs the screen to do that. Maybe it's to sneak in or to use some sort of protection, but it seems like that's the direction he could be going in. Back to whatever is coming out of the egg, it seems like the contestants have to try to stop it from, quote, get away! We also got this weird instance of Suitcase floating in midair, which I'm assuming has something to do with the egg. If, like, the egg is trying to take off or go back to another planet, which would make sense, as Test Tube is trying to use her telescope to shoot at it or something like that. Lastly, I'll go over how I think this episode will play out. I think it will start with Test Tube saying that the egg made a noise to Baseball and everyone freaking out.
So what if it made a noise?
So, everything!
I think that a big part of this episode will then be the challenge, which I'm assuming MePhone will make stopping whatever hatches out of that egg, as there was no voting for challenge last time in last episode, which means this event was probably planned more meticulously by the crew. The last thing I'm going to say in this part is that I think a lot of the episode will revolve around characters trusting one another, in both MePhone and Taco, Baseball and Suitcase, and everyone else.
She wouldn't—
What? Turn on our best friends?
With that, I'm going to leave it be. I didn't go into as much detail as I did in the last video, and I don't think my theory is as superb as the last one. Mostly because I didn't have enough time, and this episode is harder to figure out. However, what I will put more time into is a theory after this episode releases on the future of Inanimate Insanity, what's going on with Steve Jobs, the egg, MePhone, and MePad, and what I think will happen next. I swear to you, I have done so much research on this already, been watching past episodes frame by frame, looking in the details and doing research about Apple in general to see what I can find out. And I'm working on a pretty impressive theory in my opinion, so I'll show you guys when that's out. But until then, see ya!